Ever wondered how we find valuable minerals like gold, copper, and even diamonds hidden deep beneath our feet? It's not just about luck. Modern explorers use a fascinating field of science called geochemical exploration. Think of it as geological detective work, where scientists analyze the chemistry of rocks, soil, water, and even plants to sniff out clues of buried treasure. They are looking for what is called a geochemical anomaly, a spot where the concentration of certain elements is way higher than normal. This chemical footprint often points directly to a valuable mineral deposit. Today, we're going to dig into the incredible sampling techniques that make this all possible. From tasting the soil to analyzing the air, let's explore the toolbox of a modern mineral hunter. First up is one of the most common methods, soil sampling, or a pedogeochemical survey. The idea is simple. As a mineral deposit weathers over time, tiny traces of it get spread into the soil above. This is called secondary dispersion. Geologists collect soil samples typically from what are known as the B or C horizons, that's the layer beneath the topsoil. The B horizon is especially useful because it is rich in clays and oxides that act like magnets for metals like cobalt and zinc. The samples are then sieved to get a fine powder, which makes it easier to spot those telltale chemical spikes. This method has been incredibly successful, helping to discover major deposits like the Karlkaroo copper and gold deposit in South Australia. It is even used to find diamonds by tracking elements like niobium and chromium that signal the presence of a kimberlite pipe underground. Next, we have lithogeochemical surveys, which means rock sampling. Instead of looking at the soil on top, this method analyzes the rock itself. Geologists are searching for primary dispersion, the original chemical signature left behind when the deposit first formed millions of years ago. They'll collect rock chips from outcrops or from drill cores, making sure the samples are fresh and unweathered. If they're studying a region, they'll look for rocks free of alteration. But if they're zeroing in on a deposit, they'll hunt for rocks containing the key minerals. For example, analyzing a piece of granite for high levels of molybdenum and gold might suggest a massive porphyry copper deposit is hiding nearby. It's like reading the rock's original recipe to see if it contains the right ingredients for a mineral jackpot. Now, let's talk about something called consolidated weathered cover prospecting. This sounds complicated, but it's really about looking at the tough, leftover materials after millions of years of weathering. Think of things like ferrocrete, calcrete, and especially gossans. A gossan is a rusty, iron-rich cap that forms on the surface directly above a sulfide orbit as it oxidizes and leaches away. For an explorer, finding a gossan is like finding a giant, natural signpost that screams, "Dig here." They are crucial guides for discovering massive sulfide deposits. Famous examples include the gossans that led to the discovery of the Rajpura Dariba zinc and lead deposit and the Khetri copper belt in India. These rusty relics are the ghosts of a rich deposit that once was, and often still is, just below the surface. One of the most widely used reconnaissance tools is the stream sediment survey. Imagine a river or stream as a natural conveyor belt. As water flows across the land, it picks up tiny particles of sediment from its entire upstream catchment area. By collecting and analyzing this fine sediment, geologists can get a chemical snapshot of a huge area with just one sample. It's incredibly efficient. Dispersion in streams is often much wider than in soil, so you can detect a mineral deposit from much farther away. Samples are usually collected during the dry season from spots where sediment naturally accumulates. This powerful technique is so effective that it was responsible for the discovery of the massive Bougainville copper deposit in Papua New Guinea. Closely related to stream sampling is the heavy mineral survey. This technique focuses on collecting the densest, most weather-resistant minerals. Think of gold panning on a scientific scale. As water or ice moves sediment, heavy minerals like gold, diamonds, and cassiterite tin ore get concentrated in natural trap sites like the inside bend of a river. Geologists collect samples from these traps and pan them to separate out the heavy fraction. The results can be dramatic. A bulk stream sediment sample might have less than 5 parts per billion of gold, but the heavy mineral concentrate from that same spot could have over 12,000 parts per billion. This method was key to finding the diamond-bearing kimberlite in Vajrakara, India, and the nickel deposits of the Sukinda belt. What about sampling water itself? That's where hydrogeochemical surveys come in. This method involves analyzing groundwater from springs and wells or surface water from rivers and lakes. Water is a fantastic transport medium for dissolved metals. Groundwater that is slightly acidic is particularly good at dissolving and carrying elements like copper, zinc, and uranium away from a mineral deposit. Explorers collect water in clean plastic bottles and often add a bit of acid to keep the metals dissolved until they can be analyzed in a lab. This technique is especially useful in areas with very few rock outcrops or for exploring under the ocean for things like manganese nodules on the seafloor. Believe it or not, plants can also be mineral detectives. Vegetation surveys come in two flavors: geobotany and biogeochemistry. Geobotany is the art of observation. Certain plants, called indicator species, only grow in soils with high concentrations of specific metals. Seeing a particular type of flower, like the Nyctanthes arbitristis in India's Zawa belt, can point directly to a sulfide deposit. Other times, plants might look stressed or have an unusual color. Biogeochemistry, on the other hand, is about chemical analysis. Plants absorb elements from the soil through their roots, acting as natural sampling pumps. By analyzing the leaves, twigs, or bark, scientists can measure the metal content and map out anomalies. This is a game changer in densely forested areas like northern Canada and Siberia, where the ground is hard to get to. Sometimes the clues are literally in the air. An Geochemical or vapor survey analyzes gases and volatile elements that seep up through the ground from a hidden deposit. The most famous element used is mercury. It's the only metal that's a vapor at room temperature, and it's often associated with sulfide deposits. Highly sensitive instruments can detect tiny amounts of mercury vapor in the air or trapped in soil gas, creating a halo effect over the mineralization. Another important gas is radon, which is a decay product of uranium and is a key indicator for uranium exploration. In the oil and gas industry, similar techniques look for micro-seepages of hydrocarbons to locate deep reservoirs. For really deep deposits, geologists need more advanced techniques. One of these is the Lithogeochemical survey, also known by its Russian acronym, CHIM. This clever method is based on the idea that metal ions can be transported vertically from a deep orbit to the surface by natural electrical fields in the Earth. To collect these ions, geologists bury carbon electrodes in the ground for a couple of days, applying a low-voltage current. The electrodes absorb the mobilized ions, which are then analyzed. It's a great way to confirm targets found with geophysics before committing to expensive drilling. It was successfully tested to trace the extension of the Challenger gold deposit in Australia. Another cutting-edge method is selective geochemical extraction. Traditional methods often analyze the entire soil or rock sample. This technique is different. It targets only the labile or loosely bound metal ions that have migrated upwards from a deep source and are just weakly attached to soil particles at the surface. By using special chemical solutions called lixiviants, chemists can dissolve just these mobile ions, giving a much clearer signal of the buried mineralization underneath. It helps to screen out the background noise from the local surface geology and provides a more direct indicator of a deep, hidden target. Isotope geochemistry adds another layer of information: time and origin. By studying the ratios of radiogenic isotopes, like uranium, lead, or rhenium osmium, scientists can determine the absolute age of a mineral deposit. They can also use stable isotopes of elements like sulfur and oxygen to trace the source of the metals and the fluids that formed the ore body. For example, analyzing the lead isotopes in a galena crystal can tell you about the deep crustal reservoir the lead came from. This genetic information is incredibly powerful for identifying major mineralized districts and understanding exactly what type of deposit you're dealing with. What happens in regions that were once covered by giant glaciers? That's where drift or till geochemical surveys are used. Glaciers act like massive bulldozers, scraping up rock and soil and depositing it elsewhere as a sediment called till. By analyzing the till, geologists can find mineralized rock fragments and trace them back up ice to their source. This is like following a trail of breadcrumbs left by the glacier. Portable drills are often used to sample the basal till, which is the layer right at the bottom that is most representative of the local bedrock. This method has been essential for discoveries in glaciated terrains like Canada and Finland, leading to major nickel and copper finds. Finally, some of the world's richest resources aren't on land at all. Polymetallic nodule surveys involve exploring the deep ocean floor. These nodules are potato-sized lumps of manganese, nickel, copper, and cobalt that have slowly precipitated out of seawater over millions of years. Specialized underwater vehicles and sampling equipment are used to map out and collect these nodules from prospective areas of the seabed, unlocking a vast, untapped mineral resource. As you can see, geochemical exploration is a rich and varied field, blending geology, chemistry, and clever problem-solving. From the simplest soil sample to complex isotope analysis, each technique provides a unique piece of the puzzle. By combining these methods, modern explorers can systematically narrow down vast territories to pinpoint the exact location of valuable mineral resources that power our world. Thanks for joining us on this geological adventure. If you enjoyed this, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell for more deep dives into the world of science.